All right, folks, Yishai Fleischer here in beautiful Brooklyn. Okay, I'm in my Brooklyn office right now of the Jewish community of Hebron, the Hebron Fund. So I'm right now here and thinking about what's going on in Israel. Actually, not what's going on in Israel, but in the broader region. And there's a lot happening on our northern border in Lebanon and to the east of that and to the north of that in Syria. Whoa, there is things going on. There's some kind of tumultuous activity. Let me read to you the way that they write it on Yahoo News, which is actually from the war zone. I thought this was a very apt way of describing what's going on. The rapid and sudden push south by anti-regime forces in Syria has caused a geopolitical quake throughout the region. The extremely complex situation, all the various forces at play, which includes a smattering of belligerents with their alliances and bitter enemies, has just in a week's time put Syrian strongman Bashar al-Assad, his rules in jeopardy once again. So that is the situation that the Middle East is facing. And we're going to get a little bit of a clear analysis about who the various forces are from the one and only Dr. Mordechai Kedar. Dr. Kedar is a researcher at the Besa Center for Strategic Studies at Bar Ilan, along with many other research centers globally. He studies radical Islam. In fact, his PhD was about Syria. So this is going to be a lot of fun. He's famous because he's been in media outlets, Arab media outlets, speaking in Arabic just a little bit better than Arabs. He served for 25 years as lieutenant colonel in the Israeli military intelligence, still serves in Central Command. He's the Middle East analyst for Channel 14 and the VP of Newsreel, which is a great media outlet for news out of Israel. Mordechai Kedar, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure to be here, Yishai.
Okay, so I'm in Brooklyn. You're in Eretz Israel, the land of Israel. But the issue today is what's north of Israel. Now, yesterday I was at an awesome Syrian-Lebanese wedding here in Brooklyn. Okay, that's why I flew down here to be at my friend's wedding, and it's very special, my friend's daughter's wedding. And there's a lot of people who watch Arabic TV from Syria and from Lebanon, and also a lot of people who know stuff. They're politically connected. So they told me some wild stuff. They talked to me about that Bashar al-Assad has already fled Syria, and he's actually in London, and that he's turning to the Israelis, and he says, protect me. And if you protect me, then I will I'll do what you want. I will ensure that Iran doesn't send weapons to Hezbollah anymore. I'll cut them off. And I'm better for you than all of these rebels, because these rebels are ISIS or Turkish supported or other elements. There's also Kurdish ones, but they're probably pro-Israel. There's all kinds of forces. Take me, and I will protect you. So before we go on, as we say in Hebrew, taseh lanu seder, help us get a clarity about who the good guy is, who the bad guy is, who the players are in this very tumultuous Syria. Vakashai Kedar.
Well, to begin with, there are no good guys. There are the bad and the worse. The only question is who are the bad and who are the worse. Okay, so this is the bottom line. Above the bottom line, who knows how many layers which deserve to speak about. The struggle between the Syrian regime and the Islamists in Syria has started already in 1963. Means 61 years ago. 61 years, when the Ba'ath Party, the Socialist Party, took over Syria by elections, by the way, in March 1963.
Secular socialist. I just want to make that point. These are
secular socialist party, which was directed by the ideology of the Ba'ath ideology, which was tailored by one Christian guy named Michel Aflaq and another Muslim guy named Salah ad-Din al-Baitar, and both together they shaped the ideology of the Ba'ath, which was explicitly against Islam. So the Islamists in Syria became very angry. 3 years later, the Alawi group of officers, headed by Hafiz Assad and Salah Jadid, took over the state after they took over the party, and they nominated themselves to be the rulers of the country. Now you have to understand, Alawis in Syria or wherever they are also in Lebanon, in Turkey, they are infidels. They are idol worshippers. And I proved it in my book.
You mean
And
that they're idol objectively, or do you mean from the point of view of regular Sunni Muslims?
no, they worship idols. Would you like to see?
Okay,
I can show you.
just explain to me what you mean.
Wait a second. Wait a second.
Okay.
I'll show you. This is my book about Syria. Assad in search of legitimacy.
Cool.
Message and rhetoric under in the Syrian press under Hafez and Bashar. This was published in 2005.
Okay.
5 years into the presidency of Bashar Assad. Means almost 20 years ago. In the back, I published a picture.
Okay.
Of a sanctuary of the Alawis from the village of Rajar in Israel. And they are Alawis. The only village of Alawis in Israel is in Rajar, in the north. And in this sanctuary, you can see these two pigeons.
Yes, I see the pigeons. Okay.
You see them?
Yeah, I see it.
In Islam, you cannot create images or statues of animals or whatever. This is idol worshipping.
Okay.
And there are more. And there are more. In this picture, there are more. Means that the Alawis are viewed in Islam as infidels. Ibn Taymiyyah, the big philosopher of the Muslims from 700 years ago, wrote about them that they are akfar min al-Yahud wa Nasara. Means they are more infidels than the Jews and the Christians about the Alawis, because he saw these things which were also in Syria. So
okay.
So they are definitely, absolutely illegitimate because they are infidels and they rule Muslims. There is no way in Islam that infidel, idol worshipper, rules Muslims. This is against the rules of physics in Islam.
But how is it that the Islamic Republic of Iran joined teams with Hafez al-Assad and the Alawites?
Interest. That's all. They found somebody to be with them, so they gave them a seal of Hersher, that they, as if they are some kind of Shia faction. This
kosher seal of approval.
Right. So this is the problem. So the Islamists, the Muslim Brotherhood in Syria, were so enraged because of this takeover, and they decided to topple them. In 1976, there was the first eruption of the rebellion against the regime. It started in Hamat, and it finished in Hamat in 1982 in the big massacre of Hamat in February 1982. After some 50,000 people got killed. This was the first round. Then they learned the lesson, the Muslim Brotherhood, and they waited for a whole generation, and they came out back to the streets when the Arab Spring started. It started in Tunisia in December of 2010, moved to Egypt in 2011, January, and it came to Syria in March of the same year, 2011. And since then, there is a civil war in Syria between the regime and the Islamists. Meanwhile, after 2003, in Iraq was the Al-Qaeda branch, which turned into the Islamic State of Iraq. And when Bashar Assad started to butcher his people, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi decided to broaden the space of the Islamic State of Iraq, ISI, in order to have also Syria, and he occupied like 40% of Syria, and this was ISIS, Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. Oh, okay, so this was, the whole world came in order to topple ISIS, and they actually succeeded in 2018 to get rid of ISIS, but many of the fighters of ISIS ran away and found asylum in the area of Idlib in the northern part of Syria. Why? This is a very hilly area covered with forests and groves, and so they can have very easily where to hide from the government. And they are very close to Turkey, who, under the rule of Erdogan, was supporting them in secret. So this is the best place which they came and settled up. And I'm talking about something which happened since 13 years ago. Meanwhile, many Islamists came also from other parts of Syria and in the Middle East, and they shaped and they formed organizations in this area. They got weapons, ammunition, money, trainers, or whatever they needed from Turkey, smuggled them from Turkey with the knowledge of the Turkish authorities or not, I have no idea. But definitely, if Turkey would decide to stop it, they would succeed to stop. So this is how this Idlib area was shaped. Meanwhile,
let's just look at the map for a second. Okay, here's the map. And where's Idlib for us?
in the north, where the green.
On the border there?
This is the Idlib and Aleppo today.
Okay, Aleppo's right. Okay, Aleppo is
Near
right,
Idlib.
northern, straight above Lebanon, north of Syria, the northern part of Syria.
In the years of the fight against ISIS, Iran sent troops, especially militias, and so did Hezbollah. Hezbollah, the Lebanese organization, sent its troops to Syria in order to get rid of ISIS, because ISIS are Sunnah and they're against Assad, while Hezbollah and the Iranians are Shia and they are with Assad. So, but not everywhere the Hezbollah succeeded to occupy villages or towns, so they put siege on these towns and villages, and they just killed them by hunger. They didn't let them bring in food, water, whatever, and people, thousands of people died because of they were in hunger, which Hezbollah put on their villages. So now they are in revenge against Hezbollah.
Wait, so just so Assad and Hezbollah were together against these more Sunni Islamists who are like ISIS type folks. Okay.
Yes, but I have to emphasize, it's not only Islamists. It's also socialist organizations, communist organizations, democratic organizations, all kinds, religious and non-religious, all kinds of organizations are today in Idlib, or where in Idlib, waiting for the big fight against the common denominator or the common enemy, which is the Syrian regime.
Wait, one more question. What about another group which I'm concerned with, which is the Kurds? Are they in the game here?
Well, they are indirectly part of this.
Okay.
Leave them aside for now.
Okay.
What happened a year ago is that the war with Hamas started. One day after it started with Hamas, Hezbollah decided to shoot at us and to start what they call the support for Gaza.
Well, let me say it a little bit different. 7th of October, we were attacked by Hamas. Israel was attacked by Hamas. And 8th of October, Hezbollah joins in the attack to destroy Israel on a two-front war backed by Iran. what was the surprise is Israel's powerful response.
Now, what happened is like 3 months ago, Israel turned the table over their head and started to bomb them seriously and started to topple the military power of Hezbollah to a degree that Hezbollah agreed to come to a ceasefire like 10 days ago. Okay? Means that as of now, Hezbollah can get only stronger. Why? Because Israel...
They have a ceasefire.
Because of the ceasefire.
Mm-hmm.
So all these organizations in Idlib decided that this is the time when Hezbollah is no more fighting or possible fighting power against them. Now they decided to run after the head of Assad.
So Hezbollah is not at its full strength, and it's only going to get stronger through the ceasefire. This is the time to attack. And there's yet another advantageous moment, is that Russia, the traditional supporter of Hafez al-Assad, who has interests in Syria, is also tied up in the Ukrainian war, right?
Right, and they don't have enough weapons or bombs or drones or missiles or whatever they fight with. Now they invested in Ukraine. They don't have enough in Syria, so both Syria and Hezbollah are weak. So this is the time to come out from the area of Idlib, which, with all the cars and the armored cars and the weapons and the cannons and whatever they have there. Now is the time to occupy Aleppo, means the economic capital of Syria, to stop the air traffic in the airport, which also was a gateway for weapons for Assad regime, and to start moving down south to occupy Hamat, Homs, and Damascus. Homs actually is the
how many fighters? How many fighters are we talking about here? What are we talking about? What is the strength?
I assume that around 50,000.
Okay.
I really don't know. They never said how many they have, and any data which they give might be biased in order to show that they are on one side big force, so everybody becomes afraid of them, or they would say that they are a very small one in order to leave Iran out of the equation, because the biggest threat on these organizations is Iran. Because if Iran starts to move its militias from Iraq and its army, or IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, if they move them to Syria, the rebels are in a problem. So the rebels, there is a good reason why to say that they are a small group. So Iran says, well, you can get along with them by yourself. So this is why I don't trust any number which they will say. It might be even biased to high or biased to low. Okay. So what is important is that they actually came out with a blitzkrieg.
Right.
Within 2 days, they succeeded to occupy Aleppo, a big city of millions of people. In the third, fourth day, they came out and occupied Hamat, another important city, including an airport, means airbase of the Syrian army. They caught huge storages of ammunition and weapons, and they also captured the place where the Iranians were developing and producing arms in Syria, in order not to bring them to Syria and to be targeted by the IDF. So they actually brought lines of production to Syria to produce weapons and drones or whatever they did. Israel, the rebels occupied this base or this facility, and they destroyed it. Means that now Syria is exposed. because they cannot produce weapons, especially not the Iranians. So now the question is, what should Israel do? Israel can support the rebels.
Before you get to the question, just one quick piece of analysis, which is October the 7th turns out to be a watershed moment in Middle East reality, Middle East alignment. Things
because in the Middle East everything is connected. Everything is connected, like vessels which are connected in the bases. You know, whatever their shape, the water will be the same height. Why? Because they are interconnected in the lower part. So this is what happens in the Middle East. Everything is connected by the social media. Everybody sees all the time what happens in every arena, and everybody is either encouraged or discouraged by what they see. And today, when the Sunnis actually are in some kind of intifada against the Syrian regime and its Iranian supporters, it actually sends Sunnis in Iraq and in other places to the streets against the Iranian proxies ruling of their countries.
Does it also send that signal to Iranian people against their own regime?
Could also be. Why not? Of course. Because the people in Iran are very, very alert about anything which can undermine the power of the regime. And if they are losing Syria after they lost Lebanon already, means lost Hezbollah, and now they're going to lose Syria, this is a big, big blow to the Iranian regime, which is based on exporting the revolution. Means that they already two countries are on the way to get lost from the Iranian point of view. And if this happens in Syria and the rebels actually take over, it will come to Iraq in no time. It will come to Yemen in no time. So this is why this event with the rebels in Syria is so important for the future of the Middle East, because
so
if they succeed, this will encourage all the enemies of Iran from outside and from within to come out against the rule of the mullahs.
Okay, so if I'm Israeli, the classic Middle East way of thinking is the enemy of my enemy is my ally, or at least I can work with him. By this rationale, should Israel now support these rebels? That would mean supporting ISIS, supporting a Muslim Brotherhood and Al Qaeda, folks that are sworn to destroy Israel, or do we support Hafez al-Assad, an ally of Iran, who's butchered his own people, or do we support the Kurds, or what?
So this is what I told you in the beginning. It's the choice between the bad and the worse. I have no feelings or no emotions for the ISIS and the ISIS like. They are just like Hamas and even much worse than Hamas.
Mm-hmm.
I have no desire to have them as neighbors of Israel. Yet, having said that, we have always have to remember that these ISIS gangs are in the worst case, they are tactical threat on the state of Israel. They have AK-47, they have some RPG rockets, and that's it. That's what they have. Okay? It might not be so pleasant to be under it, but this is a tactical threat. Iran is a strategic threat, because of Iran is a big pile of ballistic missiles, and who knows if they are not on the way to acquire nuclear weapon. And if they do, they are much more dangerous to the state of Israel compared to anyone who sits in Iraq or in Syria. This is why I think that Israel should look very carefully into the possibility to tie hands with this organization, not because we love ISIS or we love Al Qaeda.
What does that look like? What does that look like? Does it mean that we wave the the Islamic yellow flag or a green flag, or does it mean that we actually send them arms? What does that mean? Or maybe we can't talk about it. What does it mean?
Look, if they have a state, they will not have a one state. It will be fragmented.
Uh-huh.
Syria will be divided between the
Uh-huh.
Kurdish state, and here are the Kurds. Here are the Kurds. They want to divide Syria in order to have not only autonomy, they want to have all the way independence in the southern part of Syria. The problem is that this northern part of Syria is actually adjacent to Turkey, to the Turkish.
So northern, not southern part, northern part of Syria.
Not the border between Syria and Iraq, and Syria and Turkey, and Turkey is afraid that such a development in Syria means a Kurdish state will immediately move into Turkey, and the Kurds in Turkey will demand a state for themselves, just like the Jews have a state, and the Christians in Lebanon have a state. So why shouldn't they have a state after they didn't take this opportunity 100 years ago? So this actually is threatening the peace and tranquility in Turkey, because when such a development occurs, Turkey cannot take it, and Turkey always uses its proxies in order to cancel any attempt of the Kurds to shape a state.
Okay.
So this is more or less it's more of Turkish Kurdish issue rather than the Syrian regime issue.
And by the way, the Kurds have always been a lot. Dr. Kedar, the Kurds have been always pro-Jewish and aligned with Israel. Is that true or not true?
The Kurds, as individuals, as organization, yes, but openly, you can very easily see that Kurds are also against Israel in many cases, because they compare themselves to Israel as a country or the people who came from wherever they came, and they divided all kinds of countries to groups of tribes, and the Kurds are tribes. They are divided, sharply divided to all kinds of tribes, and those Kurds in Syria cannot speak even in Kurdish to the Kurds in Iran, the eastern part of Kurdistan, because the languages is so different, even the language, the dialects of Kurdish language. So this is a long story. This the whole thing about the Kurdish. Yet we have to take in account that there are Americans in Syria who are there in order to protect the Kurdish minority. So Iran knows all these things. And Iran, so far, as you know, Iran did not participate in the war between us and Gaza. Iran did not take part in the war between us and Lebanon. And this is why Iran actually betrayed the Arabs, betrayed Hezbollah, betrayed Hamas, and everybody is angry at Iran these days. So the relations here in the Middle East are rather complicated between states.
Right. Is Iran weaker today than it was a week ago?
Of course. Iran is today, first of all, they have no air defense. Start with this, after Israel destroyed all their air defenses. Secondly, Iran cannot export oil because of the sanctions, which when Trump come to the White House the second time in like what 5 weeks, more or less, or 6 weeks. This is the Iranians are very much concerned about this because they know the man and they hear what he says, especially recently. Therefore, what I think is that Israel should support the rebels rather than support Assad. Assad, I don't trust him because he brought in the Iranians in 2015 to fight against ISIS. But now, when he has a problem with the rebels, he wants to get rid of the Iranians. He changes his mind every other day. And I'm not, I don't think that this is the one with whom we want to be in bed. Let alone the fact that he's still with Iran, and Iran are supporting him. So why should I prefer a tactical problem with some ISIS groups whom I at all don't like, rather than having a strategic problem with Iran, which has ballistic missiles and possibly few in the near future uh,
Nuclear weapons.
also nuclear weapons. So this is the problem, and it's a choice between the bad and the worse, which is the bad and which is worse.
Dr. Mordechai Kedar is a researcher at the Bessa Center in Bar Ilan, studies radical Islam. He's been a lot on Arabic television, served for 25 years, lieutenant colonel in the IDF intelligence, continues to serve in reserves and Central Command, Middle East analyst, Channel 14, and VP of Newsreel. Dr. Kedar, thank you so much for coming to us late night from Israel and here in Brooklyn. God bless you, and thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
All right, folks, you just heard from Dr. Kedar. The situation is complex, but Iran is potentially weaker, and that is important in itself. Israel continues to remain strong and to prosecute this war in such a way as that yesterday we were attacked on October 7th, and now Syria is falling apart and Iran is weaker, and that's the way she rolls. When you start with us, it's going to end up someplace that you don't expect, and that's because God is with us, and we are a stiff-necked people to defend ourselves and to make sure that Am Yisrael Chai with the help of God. I want to ask for your support and help. Check out fightforisrael.org. Right now, we got to fight for Israel, and that's what we're doing here on the programs and also in all of our efforts to beautify the land. My new expression, beautifight. We've got to beautify the land, fight for the land, and spread Torah throughout the world. So check out Fight for Israel. And you can also support the show through buymeacoffee.com/Yishai. Very simple, a very nice way, elegant way to send a little, thank you and appreciation. And also it gives us a spiritual, emotional boost. It's emotional caffeine that sends us a message saying keep broadcasting. So thank you very much. And also, get back to basics. The tomb of the patriarchs and matriarchs, where the mamas and papas are buried, is in Hebron. I work for the Jewish community of Hebron. Check out hebronfund.org. I'm in the Hebron Fund offices in Brooklyn right now. God bless you, folks, wherever you are. Am Yisrael Chai. The nation of Israel lives. It's fighting. It's kicking. And with the help of God, bad guys will fall apart and turn to chaff. The good people of the region and of this world will rise up and praise God and live amicably with one another, with prosperity, with tourism, with economy, with medicine, with upward mobility, and with good things for children and education and a future of God's revelation in this world. God bless you wherever you are. Stay tuned and shalom.